Good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to stress a point that has convinced me through the years to definitely let the chart tell us what the or let the market tell us what the market is doing. Which is, as soon as you see it close below the T-line, any long positions, you've got to be a lot more attentive as far as closing out long positions that aren't looking good and going short. And you can see what happened once they closed below the T-line. They could never get back up above the T-line, even though we had a couple of days of bullish haramis telling us the selling had stopped. We still needed that final confirmation that they were coming up above the T-line. And when they did kind of an evening star signal on Friday, that told you once again that any long positions should have very good reasons to stay long. But the market was heading lower. So this was either going to be a support level or a support break level. And as we saw today, it kind of broke. Now the pre-market or the YMs are trading up a little bit higher after hours, after bouncing up today, but we still have to go on one simple premise. We're in a downtrend as long as this market continues to trade below the T-line. So we saw the same scenario over here in the NASDAQ. This line right here is just kind of a support line coming up through some bottoms that you could see the support. Whoops, hold on. Yeah, so I wouldn't be chasing after anything just yet. Whoop, I'm going to sneeze again. That's just great, going a sneezing fit. So we still have to be very careful in these, as far as this downtrend is concerned. Going to sneeze again. Don, not really. That's, oops, here we go again. Well, for crying out loud. Because we saw last time, go back to the Dow. Last time it did this. Next day they took it right back up again. And so even though the pre-market futures are, well, that's just great. Start sneezing just as start doing this. Go do it again. So no, there's no telling what they can do from here. Obviously, well, this is getting old. anything. We could wake up tomorrow morning and the futures are down here. All right. So this, again, is just to observe the obvious. The obvious being, as soon as they close below the T-line, change your perspective immediately. Doesn't mean you have to close out long positions. You close out long positions that may be getting a little bit toppy and starting to show some sell signals, even though they may not be closing back below the T-line. You have a very easy analysis saying, well, if the market is starting to sell off and this position I've got is in the overbought area and it's starting to sell off, even though it's not a complete sell signal yet, maybe I should start taking some off the table. So this is ART. ALT worked out very well until we started getting up here. There was the hanging man, doji, spinning top, doji in the overbought area. This is where what we went through over the weekend was, even though we don't have a confirmed sell signal, we're seeing potential sell signals in the overbought area, and the market's starting to sell off. That's probably telling us we can go ahead and start taking some off the table. So the biggies, like Apple, when it closed, remember the trading rule from the Japanese raise traders: the bigger the signal, the more compelling. There's been a change of investor sentiment. Do you use the same principle of the T-line for on long term? No. Maybe on long term we would use the 50-day moving average. Or maybe you use it on your monthly chart. Say as long as this is staying up above the T-line on your monthly chart, you can stay long. But you can see short term that Apple was selling off. Amazon tried to come back up. Uh-oh. Tried to come back up, but then closed back below the T-line. Now, would I, if I went long, would I have sold it right here? Probably not. But here is what the charts tell you to do. If they gapped Amazon down today, what did that do to your chart trajectory? It kind of destroyed it. So there'll be a lot of people sitting out there saying, well, should I hold on to Amazon? Right now, if you looked at this chart and knew everything or know everything we know about candlestick signals, yeah, that was tricky, just below the T-line, stayed above the 50. Now, could we have known, is this a dumpling top? On this one, not really. Dumpling top is a very smooth rounding top. I'm trying to think of which ones I'll find those. But now the question is, well, if I was long Amazon, what's that chart look like at this point? And pretty much you can see that it's not a very good chart to be in. Close it out and go someplace else. Or close it out and consider even going short if the markets show more weakness. Let's backtrack a little bit and take a look at crude oil closed below the T line. It's bounced up a little bit after hours. But what's that telling us? It's telling us there's not a lot of strength there. Oh, that's not what I was looking for. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Corn closed below the T line. So here's what we did as far as our analysis on Saturday. What are all the elements that we could put into this and analyze in which direction corn is going? A 1 kind of hit the 34, which isn't anything real relevant, but it did a bearish harami after it did that. Now it's closed back below the T line, doing kind of a bearish doji sandwich. And after hours, it's still trading down a little bit. What other element can we look into this? Well, you could draw a resistance level. That's not what we want. We want trend. You can pretty much see it had a strong downtrend. Where do you think the next likely target's going to be? Either back here to the 200 and or to the bottom of the trend channel. So again, science. This is just analyzing where are the signals occurring, where are stochastics, is there resistance levels, is it above or below the T line, and is there a trend that we can identify? That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for wave 1, wave 2. Where did wave 3 occur? Well, there's an evening star signal smack dab at the T line. This is why if you see a buy signal, I would rather wait for that total confirmation that they're going to close above the T line than try to jump the gun a little bit. And that's a good buy signal, but it didn't confirm. Those were good buy signals, but they didn't confirm. So I'm kind of stressing this because I have kept myself from being frustrated many times now, knowing that as soon as it trades below the T line, the probability factor is extremely strong we're going in a downward direction. Even when I see buy signals, I still want to see the confirmation that they're going to close back up above the T line. Oh, and here's another little, where was it? This one. Who was it? Steve, Steve, now I can't remember, but told us that the corporate bond index is a very good indicator, because if they're buying the corporate bonds, not the top quality ones, but kind of the corporate bonds, that's added confidence. And when they're selling off those bonds, that means they're getting a little bit worried about the overall trend, even when they close above the T line. Yes, just because something just closes above the T line, you still want to see confirmation the next day. Oh, was it Johnny? Okay, Johnny Seville, that's right. Thank you, Cap. Netflix. If I was thinking of buying and it didn't trade above the T line until, let's say, the end of the day, I still want to see bullish confirmation. Because what was another element that told us we might not be heading higher. Stochastics are still heading down. And that was the same scenario over here in the NASDAQ. But even though this looked like it might be trying to reverse, our stochastics weren't in an area that's enough. They're now in an oversold situation. So these are just kind of little nuances to say, all right, could be seeing buy signal. We're still not convincingly above the T-line, and our stochastics are still heading down. Let's just give it a little bit more time to confirm. Now, had this closed up here today, probably your stochastics would have started curling up, and it would have told us pretty convincingly that the T-line was now acting as a support level versus a resistance level. So even though things don't actually close below the T-line, you still have to look at them at the trend with the other elements that we know should be happening in our trend analysis. We see the J-hook pattern coming off the doji sandwich. And it came up here and did a bearish harami. Still didn't close below the T-line. But what was another little tidbit that told us we might want to take a look at taking some profits? Wave 1 and wave 3 were looking about the same. So even though it pulled back today and didn't close below the T-line, what's the trajectory right now of this uptrend? Well, we don't know whether it's going this way, or this way. In the overbought area. Let's go to cash. Even if this starts back up, we can always buy back on a J-hook pattern, or we can go find another chart that looks like this, where the stochastics are just coming out of the oversold area and has much more, let's say, much more reasoning for buying than buying something that's already moved up that much. Don't ever watch the VIX, but it's just something there that you know is happening. I don't know whether I can get the VIX over here or not. That the VIX for the S&P, not quite a shooting star. Still still bullish in the sense that it's not a signal. A shooting star obviously needs that upper shadow to be 2 times greater than the body, which in this case it's not. All right, I'm just trying to see some of the ones that are still working as far as our shorts. Ever since this started rolling over and then gapping down, those are exactly the type of things you want to be looking for to tell you there's a force to the downside. We saw that today in BIDU, where you can see they obviously failed to get up through the 50 and then gapped down. Stochastics heading down, that would imply there's more downside. Recommended ramp, because there was your big bearish engulfing signal. Now, what are all the things that we see in this chart that would tell us probably the bears took control? First of all, kind of reversed, where it didn't do a J-hook pattern breakout. It failed, so now it's a double top. They tried to take it back up. They opened it at the T-line and took it down. That's why we were recommending it as a short today, because had it opened lower, which it did because of the market, but even if the market was just kind of queasy and this opened lower, that would have told us that we're still probably heading lower. And where would our first target be? Well, they hit the first target in one day. So this is the, oh, darn. Anytime we can see something that tells us we're seeing a strong sell signal, like a bearish best friend closing below the T-line, it's not that we're anticipating the next day the market's going to be down 600 points. We're just anticipating that chart, the sellers are starting to take control. Hold on, my list is all messed up here. Oh, I meant to. So here's another situation. There's nothing you can do about a chart like this. I know people were long because it was back up above the T-line, but then when they gap it down, you now have to say, what does my chart look like? I have no idea whether it's going to go this way, or this way. Let's take my money out and go find something that we have a much better grasp of which way the price might be moving. Here was one that was working well because of the 45 degree. But notice what it did today. This should be the alert. The fact that they gapped it down to the previous day's open, even though they didn't trade decisively after that, this makes it very simple because it's a doji that gapped down at the previous day's open. Makes tomorrow's trading very simple. If this opens lower, after gapping down, they're pulling back. You close out the position. And I'm trying to find the ones that I closed out today. Santa was another one that did a evening star type signal on Friday. It's been in the overbought area for a while, so what would make this any different? The fact it was more of a signal, and that if it opened lower, say if it opened lower, if we could see that that was it, thank you, Will. If we could see that the market was crashing and this was opening lower, after an evening star signal, didn't need too much more convincing. You close it out right away. Kano was the one I was looking for. And it did a hanging man doji in the overbought area, didn't do anything compelling as of Friday, but when it opened down here, it was time to get out of the trade. Now, it started moving back up. Saying, oh, man, they can't sell this one off, it's too strong. But when the Dow is trading lower, the NASDAQ is trading lower, this is where they took it up. And then in the 10-minute chart showed it was coming back down. That's where you closed out the position. So you got out not at the low, but you got out in here because it was starting to fade back off. Now, why would you sell something that wasn't showing her? Because that would have been a nice green candle at that point. But the fact that they opened it down here, did a green candle, and the market was still selling off, and this was starting to sell off again, that comes back to that rhetorical question. Is this the best place to have my money right now, or are the risk factors too high? Oh, that's the one I was looking for, QFIN. So you can see where they started selling this. This was a good long because of your gap up, came up above the 50. And what do we know about when they come through a resistance level? They're going to see if it's going to act as support. Well, it looked like they were acting as support. However, now you had a second. This was not a sell signal. This was the pullback that we expected to see if it was going to act as support. This showed that the T-line and the 50 were acting as support. But then we had a sell signal. There's your dark cloud. That told us it had to open positive and trade positive the next day. If it opened lower, you close out the position. Then once you closed out the position, you can see what's happened since then. If you've got a sell signal breaking the T-line, and you can see the markets are selling off, that gives you that much more credibility or credence to say, all right, this one's still probably heading lower, so we could be shorting it at that time. A lot of people ask, well, when you see a sell signal, is it time to go short? The answer is no. But if the sell signal is being confirmed, that now goes into your short category. So just because something sells off doesn't necessarily mean it's time to go short, as we can see in Microsoft. It had some sell signals, but it really wasn't anything to short. It was just something to be out of. All right, so even though the market was horrendous today, there still were a few long positions. Well, that broke out. This is where you use your rare analysis. Go and see what the news was that created this big best friend breakout. That's CRVS. This is ALT, a big left-right combo. This is where you go and check the news to see what created that price move. Oops, this one took off. I had earlier it was trading down here, so I was going to illustrate this as a that's true, Jay, as a message, but apparently they turned it around and took it right back up again. Another one that I would check to see what the news was that created that move. Now another simple indicator of whether the market is heading up or heading down is just the quantitative search process. And that's simply if it takes me 50 or 60 good charts to go through, and again, once your eyes become accustomed to identifying a good reversal signal, a good bullish signal, probably within the first 50 or 60 charts, which may only take you 2 or 3 minutes to go through, you're probably going to come up with 5, 10, 15 good reversal signals. And on any given day, depending on the market direction, you're going to find 5, 10, 15 good sell signals. But if the market is in a condition where you go through those first 50 or 60 bullish charts and you don't find anything of real convincing reversal, that's a good indication that the bulls aren't out there with any great force, that you're probably going to find better shorts. And conversely, if the market's heading up and you can find a bunch of good bullish signals and have a hard time finding any bearish signals, that's a good indication also, or a confirming indication that the bullish sentiment is in the market. So this is AVIR. Notice a little kicker type signal. And SNPX, indecision, 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 and bam, they've told you what the decision is. Another one to check out the news that created this up move. Now, when I say check the news, if it's somebody upgrading this stock, that doesn't mean anything. If one of their products has had a good test or something that changes the perspective of all investors, not just the people that are following whoever upgraded it, that becomes much more indicative that the bulls are in here for a reason versus just a upgrade that might just be a temporary change of supply and demand. And somebody, or let's say somebody, in the chat room today, we're discussing whether you could buy ATER because it was holding up well. But the logic should be, even though this might be trading up well, and the market is selling off like crazy, you don't necessarily have to jump into this. Just wait and see what it's doing. Now, if it had closed up strong in today's market conditions, then you might say, oh, there's something going on here. I'll check this out more. But just because something's trading up and you can see the market's very weak, and you just be a little bit more hesitant. As a matter of fact, are we doing that one? I think I've scheduled that. Somebody wanted to, or been asking about our entry strategies. We're going to be doing that next Wednesday night. No, what is today? Oh, today is Monday. We're going to be doing it this Wednesday night. We'll do a special session for on a Wednesday on logical entry strategies. So I brought this up because it's a good chart. Looks like a J-hook pattern, except with the market selling off. What is the, just going to the basics of candlestick analysis, what is a candlestick signal? It's the graphic depiction of everybody buying and selling during a specific time frame. And everybody has the same knowledge, or has the same knowledge of what's going on in the market. If they can see the market is selling off, everybody can see that. Just kind of logically think, well, maybe there's not going to be a lot of bullish pressure on bullish stocks today because there's going to be people out there saying that I'm not going to buy right now because the market's weak. And that's exactly what's going to happen as far as the result of that price move. There's a kicker signal on AZN. Check to see what that news was. And people were asking about Lucid. It held up extremely well. So there's probably something going on there that you want to check out. But notice you had a gap up, and they still took it up when the market's down 600 points. Somebody is buying this one, obviously. And Designer Brands, bullish engulfing, gapping up. Yesterday, or is this today? I guess this is today. They used the T-line as support and continued higher. Anytime you see that added benefit of using the T-line as support and trading up, that should give you a little bit more confidence. The bulls are definitely in control. And if I saw it correctly, I think it's trading up a little bit after hours. Now, go with the flow. If the market's heading down, which charts do you think are going to be working the best? Obviously the shorts. So you're pretty much looking at something on this one where there's kind of a support level. You had your shooting star gap down. You're below the T-line. Now they broke through this level. This is NIO. I would suspect you might be wave 1, wave 2, going into wave 3. So going with the flow basically is if you see strong selling, like a bearish kicker type signal, and the market's trading lower, as we saw in DQ, that's a good indication they're going to take this one lower. Those sell signals, anything you see that has a sell and then a gap down, or a potential sell signal gap down, what's that tell you? They want to get out with force. Now this is also a function of the market. However, the candlestick signals are the graphic depiction of everybody buying and selling based upon the same information. So if they're selling this off hard, whether it's the market or not, they're still selling it off hard. Yeah, the Chinese apparently are cracking down. So now, whether that is the Chinese stocks, whether that is actually going to hurt them or not, it doesn't matter. The perception right now is that it's going to hurt them. And that just points out the fact that prices do not move based upon fundamentals. Prices move based upon the perception of fundamentals. PDD, another one. Now this is more of a dumpling top. These slow rounding tops, and then what happens when they start selling it off? Everybody's gotten bored, concerned. Now they're selling, so everybody starts selling, and that's what really pushes a dumpling top down, just like a fry pan bottom is a buildup of an investor sentiment. Micron didn't sell off as hard as it had been during the day. Advanced Micro, same scenario. However, I was telling people today the trajectory of this one doesn't look very good as far as a short. But what did it do today? It gapped down below the 50. We're not quite in the oversold area, and it did a doji. So that becomes much more relevant to our analysis, because we know that if this opens lower tomorrow, you've got a potential of a bearish doji sandwich breaking this level, that could add a lot of force to the downside. Stochastics are 12.33, slow stochastics. And again, that's nothing set in stone. One night, 30 or 40 years ago, the standard at that time was 14.55, but I'm a swing trader, so I wanted something a little bit faster. So I spent a good, long 20 minutes of changing the stochastic settings from 14.32, 12.55, 12.34, 13.51, and 12.33 seem to match up pretty consistently with overbought and oversold, and they've worked for me all that time. That's right, it was a dark and stormy night. So what we're looking for is not ones that have already cratered, but ones that would be ready to go on further downside, that we're not buying something that's already had a big percentage move. We're buying or shorting something that's just starting a potentially big percentage move. What do we like to see when they start selling these off? I like to see that big, huge downdraft because everybody's bailing out. And so you've often heard me say, do we always get big, huge moves? Definitely not. But we get ourselves in positions where the possibility of being in a big, huge up move or down move is much more likely to be in our favor. So there's kind of your dumpling top. This is LI, L-I. And you can see they were selling it off, and then today with the market, they just cratered it. So this is kind of what we're looking for. And I think that's about all I have for tonight. Whoops, so this is the type of thing that if you have the visuals and you've got the mechanics, to say, all right, we had a fry pan bottom, we had a J-hook pattern, we started rolling over. Where is it going to go pull back? Maybe to the 34, maybe to the 200, maybe to the 50. Or what is everybody else watching? Maybe we throw Fibonacci retracement on here. So the 38% retracement would coincide with the 38. There's your 50 and there's your 62%. So not that it's going to pull back to these levels, but if it does pull back to one of these levels and we see a reversal signal, then we pretty much can estimate that's where the bears are stepping back in. Chad, no. We only had the electric vehicle sector because it looked like it had huge potential there for a while. So what becomes much more easy to identify which sectors are getting strong or weak, if we go through our the simple scanning technique. Again, if I go through, usually I go through 100 stocks. I narrowed the trading universe down to 3,300 stocks, and that's stocks greater than 5 trading more than 200 shares a day, 200,000 shares a day. So if I do my scan, which my simple scan is, I want to see which stocks had the biggest percent price move today. But if I go through and I see that, there's 8 good biotech stocks in there with good bullish signals, then I can pretty much assume that the biotech sector is being bought. If I can scan through and see that a lot of stocks are being sold off hard, I can pretty much assume that that sector is being sold off. So it's not a very sophisticated process to find out what sectors are being bought or sold just based upon approximately 3 minutes of scanning every night. Yes, and you can use sector lists. Now, I'm pretty sure I've only got the TC 2007, and they've kind of quit the sector scans or the sectors on there. Does the newer TC 2000 systems have the sectors still in there? And you can scan just as easily through the sector where you go up, where you have a sector list, and sometimes it's a Bloomberg sector or somebody else's sectors. You just do the same thing. You scan to see which one of those sectors had the strongest move, and then if you see it's the trucking stocks had a strong sector move, now you can flip to the components of that sector and see which stocks in that sector had the best price moves. Let's see, Bill, what do you want to know about Apple? Apple is still in a downtrend because it's below the T line. So if this is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 should come down here. There looks like a wee little teeny gap here. Yeah, so anytime you see a chart, and there's nothing you could do about Tesla if you were long. When they gap it down, you can say, well, it's because of the market. But the true answer is they sold off because of the market. That means it wasn't acting very strong. And what's the trajectory now of this chart? Nothing. So take that money and go find a much better trade setup. Okay, so that's about all I got for tonight. Are there any general questions on candlesticks? SP, didn't we just say that? Wednesday, we're going to be doing entry strategies. Okay, Jim, I guess do the double line. And in 3.1 seconds, do the next double line. Okay, we'll go back up. All right, Newmont sold off today. Look at your bearish kicker signal. What do you expect? Probably coming back down at least to the bottom of this channel. Is this gold as in Barrick's gold? Had a little pop-up. Gold as far as gold looks like it's in a downtrend right now. And again, where did they start selling? There's your bearish engulfing right at the 200. So right now it's might have bottomed. We're in the oversold area, but not anything conclusive just yet. NTAP was the one that we recommended going short today because of your bearish best friend and a close below the T-line. Where's your likely targets? Right there, right here, right here. The Stochastic's heading down. The probabilities say we're still heading lower. I'm going to check real quick. Oops. Looks like the S&P for the Dow futures are up 139 right now. Still wouldn't rush out of short positions until we see. Now remember, tomorrow the futures could be down another 140 points. Moderna, I would not be in this. I would have closed it out today if I was long. Because what's your direction telling you? Pretty much sideways. I wouldn't be long or short. NVIDIA, I'd be more apt to be going short if they open it lower tomorrow. We're not quite in the oversold area, but they did bounce off the 50 and did a doji. So tomorrow will be very simple to identify which way they're taking it based upon how they open it after the doji. Pfizer traded up a little bit today after it opened. So if I was short, I'd still use the T-line as a Iran. I would probably, if this opened positive tomorrow, probably close out half the position and then see what it does at the T-line. I think we did AMD. Want to see how this one opens tomorrow. The doji rule. It's going to move in the direction of how they open it after a doji. And that's a big evening star signal with your bearish best friend on PLTR. If you didn't close it out today, I guess if you didn't close it out today, shame on you. That's as strong a sell signal. Now you could be looking at going short with maybe the first target being back to the 200-day moving average. Fiverr, you can stay long because it used the T-line as support and came back up. But obviously you want to see it get through the 50. If it starts trading off tomorrow, I would close it out. You could always buy it back when it comes up through the 50. BABA, stay short. Tesla, I don't know whether I would go short. I just wouldn't be long. Because you really don't have direction. If they do start selling it off, and again, that'll be a function of the markets opening up weaker, you could short it. You just want to make sure they continue to sell it off, which is kind of obvious if you're shorting. Oops, this one doesn't have the full chart, or does it? No, for some reason it doesn't have the full chart. And ABCL, you can stay long as this stays above the T-line. And CCXI, you can see you're right here at the breakout area. Yeah, if you're long, stay long. Don't let it trade lower tomorrow. Alcoa, that one, you can get ready to go short if it opens weaker tomorrow. TDC, that held up well. I wouldn't necessarily be a buyer. Wouldn't be a buyer, but if you like it, you can be buying this one. And Palo, this one you can get ready to, whoops. Now this one opened lower and traded up. If it starts trading lower tomorrow, you can short it. That means they couldn't hold up and get up above the T-line. Upstart sold off today. It would be another one that I would probably close out positions just because it doesn't give us a whole lot of what do I want to say, credibility as far as more upside. We don't know which way it would be going from here. So if this opened lower tomorrow and I was long, I'd close it out. And that's, again, going to be a function of the market. AEI, if you can short it. It doesn't have too far to go to get back to the base. I don't know whether you can short stocks that are below $5. And Best Buy or Best Inc. That was not good. If this opens lower tomorrow, close it out. There's nothing there. Snap, that's non-directional. The only thing you can do with this is the fact that it opened below yesterday's open. Tells you if they open this lower, you can short it on a bearish flutter kicker that will be breaking this support level. LTHM, that was a nothing chart to begin with. Now you can think about shorting it if it trades lower, especially if it comes down through today's low, which is also the 50. Amazon broke. If you were long, I would have closed it out today. Now you want to see what it does from here. I probably wouldn't be long or short. TTCF. That's kind of a nothing chart. If you were thinking of going long, it had to open positive today, trade positive. I would not be long or short this stock right now. No direction. Nothing of any great consequence here. If you like it and you're long, which I wouldn't be, because there's really nothing to show you there's a lot of bullish pressure, you could be buying this if it breaks out through the 200. We did PLTR. That one you can get ready to go short. Hey, Matt. We did this one. This one you can go short on weakness tomorrow. MMI. Another one that you could short because of the bearish left-right combo on weakness tomorrow. When we can get the, that's Wednesday. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, what are we doing Wednesday? Entry. Scanning. We might, let's see. Scanning. I would do that on the 29th, which is, what is today? 2 Wednesdays from now. eBay. Whoops. Looks familiar. eBay. Nothing. That's pretty much, if I had been long, I would have closed it out today. I wouldn't be long or short this one right now. App. You could go short on weakness on this one, yes. Boeing, if you're short or thinking of going short, you can short this one on weakness. This one failed to hold up at this level. Love. Belt hold type signal. That one you could be going long, but I would be more, you want to have bullish confirmation from here. So you had the kicker signal, now you're in a 45 degree. That took out a lot more sellers, so that's a good looking chart. And blue needs to open positive and trade positive tomorrow to stay in it. If it opens lower, close it out because it gapped down below yesterday's open. Friday's open. Etsy, you would have been out of this one today. Now I wouldn't be long or short. And Snow, you would have been out of this one today and possibly getting ready to go short. SBET, stay short if you're short. The Dow is representative of what everybody is watching, BG. If you listen to anybody's news commentary during the day, they're going to say the Dow is up or down. That's what everybody uses, whether they want to fine tune it or not. And it doesn't matter. Again, the Dow is what everybody is using for their indicator. We can still see whether the S&P or the NASDAQ or any of those are up or down, or even the New York index, but it's the Dow that's going to create the bullish or bearish sentiment when everybody knows what that one's doing. IGV. Get ready to short this one on weakness. FO or FULC. You can stay long if you're long on this one. You can see wave 1, wave 2. I would have closed it out over in here. Now you can think about buying it back going into wave 3. Cassie, stay short. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Stay short on Meritage. Look at your kind of your evening star failure at the T-line. What was that ticker like? TLTR. PLTR, okay. I was going to say, that would be a hunt. LPI, that's a good signal. Would have been nervous. If it had come up here and then started backing off, may have closed it out. But the fact that they came right back up and closed near the top end of the trading range was a good indication they weren't selling this one off. Pure Storage. All right. Even though it traded slightly above where it opened, I would still stay short, especially if it opens lower tomorrow. Tough SPY formed a doji gap down in the oversold. Should we be cautious to open new shorts? You can still wait to see what it does. Remember the doji rule. Again, right now after hours, they're trading things up a little bit, but remember, this is just now. We could wake up and the futures down here. That tells you they're still selling this market. So, yeah, be cautious. Just watch to see how they open this market again tomorrow. Costco. How long do you stay long until you see a sell signal and a close below the T-line? I would suspect at least the 50-day moving average. Chad, yes, we would do options. Again, now that it's getting colder, except it's not really getting colder, but when the weather gets a little bit lousier, that's where we'll spend more evenings doing sessions. DraftKings, stay short. All right, Gary B., we'll have to figure that out. And Bidu, darn, I've been going through, they were looking at a chart today in the chat room that everybody was saying if it got up above 1875, you could be buying it. And it was one that we had recommended, but then it closed back below the T-line. I can't remember which one it was. But I wanted to use that for an illustration of what decisions you would make with it. NIU, you can go short on weakness. NIO, you can go short on weakness. Unity, there's your kind of your bearish best friend. Double top, look for more weakness on this one. Oscar, that was it. All right, so Oscar was trading up at the time we were looking at it. And everybody say, well, we're going to wait for it to break out through this level. Even when it was trading right here, what type of direction did we have in it? Still pretty lousy. So I would have suggested to everybody that even if it was trading up here in this market, if it closed weak or even indecisive today, I would have closed it out because there's nothing there. And Las Vegas Sands keeps trying to come up. If you are short, you want to close it out if it opens higher tomorrow. I wouldn't be going long on it just yet. Trying to see where it is after hours. Right now it's asking where it closed and bidding down a little bit, so nothing there. All right, so the important analysis tomorrow is, where is this market going to open? Now, if it opens up here, you get ready to go short on things if it comes back down through today's close, because that would create another dark candle and you're still heading down. All right, with that, we'll see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll see you then.